All righty then. It says we're alive. I guess what's going on? Memes here. And today we're going to be going over something a little bit of a different thing here. One of the questions a lot of folks have, if you're going to be in a general, let's say, the valence of different science or physics communities, different people have ideas. Different folks want to contribute. Perhaps they haven't been in academics for a good long while. Perhaps they're a professional. Now, here's the one thing that I've learned. It's number one, you never know where a good idea may originate. I think that's something that holds true. Now, how do we synthesize those ideas? Because a lot of time I feel like what often happens, at least based upon my experience, being within greater idea communities. Some may say, well, we're in a theory zone. Some folks are looking for a way to figure out what might actually be going on. Solutions to life, the universe, and everything. It may or may not be 42. 42 point, I think like 5, 6 or something like that. That's a different discussion right here. But spending time in the greater theories of everything community, basically Kurt Mungel's community. We had a subset of theories of nothing, a lot of different folks that are following different pop science type things, whether it happens to be Dr. Eric Weinstein's geometric unity, Eric Lisi's E8, or even, okay, I'm very biased here. Basically, when I say pop sci, that's probably not fair for those descriptions because those folks, I mean, E8, if it basically happens to have a lot of the rotations and stuff needed for the standard model of particle physics, you could say that's a more serious that's a serious idea. Dr. Eric Weinstein. Have I read through all of geometric unity? No. After listening to some of Kurt's video, I'm like, oh, that actually makes some more sense. I'd only read a couple pages. A few years back, sent Dr. Eric Weinstein an email, never got anything back. And then within that week, I ran across Dad's work. And I'm like, oh, dude, man, actually has some predictions. And so I kind of became a physics monk, so to speak. But today we're going to be going over Professor Stephen Wolfram's recent blog post. It's about avocational science, and let's not belabor the point here. So we'll let folks roll in now and temporally in the future, and we're basically just kind of going to do a bit of a reading of this and just go through it and see what Stephen Wolfram recommends for those of us that may not actively be part of established university research groups or particular institutional folks, whatever that might be. Uh, Basically, this is for more of the your average Sally, Dick, or Jane, or different folks that maybe they'll be a polymath or polydidact or something. They have a lot of experience, but they're looking for ways to frame their ideas more formally in order to spread them around, see if there's something there, maybe actually get some feedback. And who knows? You never know where a good idea may come from. So let's go to it right now. All right, here we go. So the link is in the doobly doo. Feel free to read over it. This was just posted, I think, yesterday afternoon, early evening. So this is a new post here. So let's read through this. So this is from Stephen Wolfram's blog. I have a theory too, the challenge and opportunity of avocational science. All right, August 14th, 2025. So, the theories of the world. Several often arrive in a single day. Sometimes they're marked urgent. Sometimes they're long. Sometimes they're short. Sometimes they're humble. Sometimes they're conspiratorial. And sometimes, these days, they're written in collaboration with an AI. There's a common theme. They're all emails that present some kind of fundamental theory invented by their authors, or perhaps their AI, about how our universe works. At some level, it's encouraging to see how many people find it interesting to think about fundamental questions in science. But at some level, it's also to me very frustrating. All that effort being spent, and so much of it so wide of the mark. Most of the time, it's based on, at best, high school physics, missing everything that was learned in 20th century physics. Sometimes it's easy to tell that what's being said just can't be right. Often things are too vague or tangled for one to be able to say much. Most physicists term the people that send such theories crackpots and either discard their missives or send back derisive responses. I've never felt like that was the right thing to do. Somehow, I've always felt that there has to be a way to channel that interest and effort into something that would be constructive and fulfilling for all concerned. And maybe, just maybe, now I have at least one idea in that direction. It doesn't help the situation that there are so many myths floating around about how science makes progress. And then suddenly figured out gravity when an apple fell on his head. Einstein was a lowly clerk when he figured out relativity. When one actually studies the history of science, the link is available here. Which one does this go to? Wow. Okay. Uh, so that's Wolfram's written a bunch of pieces there. Cool. All right. When one actually studies the history of science, one finds that essentially, without exception, there's always a long and sophisticated personal backstory to advances people make. Even with already a top professor, when the perhaps africal, apocifical, I don't even know what that means. What does it mean? Doubting the authenticity. All right, there we go. Thank you. Apple fell. Einstein had a PhD from a top university and had then gone to the Silicon Valley of the time, the Swiss patent office. It basically never happens that there are sudden flashes of insight that come out of nowhere. And that's particularly true in fundamental physics, where a fairly tall tower of abstraction and formalism has developed, particularly over the past century or so. There's everyday physics of the kind we can reason about from our everyday experience. And then there's physics of the very large and very small that's far from our everyday experience. But it's that physicist that's, but it's that physics that's our best probe of the fundamentals of how things work. And if you don't know it, you're at a crippling disadvantage in making foundational progress in physics. Of course, I'd be the first to say that in science, conventional wisdom often leads one astray. There need to be new, fresh ideas, and often ones that challenge the foundations of things that have long been assumed. But when, as in physics, there's a methodological depth to what's been figured out, that's a good place to start in making further progress. Maybe the traditional mathematical approach to quantum field theory isn't quite right, but to discard all the abstractions and generalizations that got us to quantum field theory and to return, for example, to high school physics takes us to the wrong level of thinking. But, oh, hey, Bill, good to see you. Oh, it didn't update. Well, I'm gonna go with I probably just haven't been streaming enough, so it's like, you need to do this. That's why, if you want to be a professional YouTuber, you just put out content. It's now again, you just don't want to put out garbage. I mean, I have put out garbage. I'm not gonna lie about that. It's occasionally you need to take out the trash, but at the same time, consistency within algorithms tend to. It makes sense to me. It makes sense. Then again, who am I to say? All right. What's the story of my own efforts at figuring out fundamental physics? The past few years have been exciting times for me, building on basically a lifetime of science and technology to arrive, to my great surprise, at what seems to be a serious breakthrough in understanding fundamental physics and how our universe works. And while what's now our Wolfram Physics project can, at a superficial level, be explained fairly simply, what's underneath is quite a tower of ideals, formalisms, and computational investigations. Though at least I think what Professor Wolfram's talking about right there is, to my knowledge, and again, I'm not going to claim like I understand how the entire multi-way system works and everything. No, no. But basically, at least been able to show how things like special relativity, general relativity, as well as different things within at least. Okay, I can't say anything about particle physics. I'm pretty sure we really still don't know what particles are and everything. But at the same time, even during the keynote he gave at the beginning of the physics summer school, uh, he actually mentions there, he's like, well, that got me kind of discouraged. And he's like, well, what does quantum field theory say about particles? And he's like, well, I'm going to paraphrase and insert some opinion. It was kind of hand wavy. It's like, there's some type of oscillation here, some like frequency oscillation here in the electron field, the muon field, the Higgs field, this, that, the other thing. It's like, that's basically generally how quantum field theory, based upon what I heard from Stephen Wolfram, it kind of operates. Now, I'm sure there's more to that. I'm sure if any particle physicists are out there, feel free to let me know how wrong I am. It was just adding context. All right. All right. The long story short is now you may be able to work on something, and a lot of folks they like to work on different things. Now, it, Professor Keating has a saying: don't put the toe before the gut, aka theory of everything sounds great. I totally did my own little trolley things. It's like, oh, stuff plus things times force function form whatever you want equals thus. Uh, now again, that's just words and everything. But long story short, if you're going to cast away everything that we've done, you need to replace it with something that has the same explanatory power with with less, or the same amount of stuff input and being able to explain more. Because otherwise, you're just kind of adding an epicycle upon an epicycle upon epicycle. So I'm going to default to Stephen Wolfram having been a practicing particle physicist and a scientist that's fairly famous, let's say. Now, whatever you happen to think of him, that's fine. But there's at least some working going on there. And hey, who knows? Maybe if something pans out, maybe I was able to contribute a little bit to that. Again, speculation. Okay, here we go. All right, let's continue. At some level, though, I'm an amateur physicist doing science as a hobby, like people who write to me. But under the surface, the story is rather different. Yes, for nearly 4 decades, my main job has been CEOing a tech company. But as a mid-teenager, I started out doing physics and soon was a rather successful professional physicist. And indeed, a key motivation for my efforts in technology has always been to build tools I want for myself for doing science. So yes, over the years, I've indeed maintained what one might call a serious hobby of doing science. Now, for example, with the Wolfram Institute. I always like this because there's a bunch of links. Let's see. Da-da-da. Bill's Bill's commenting on clock slows down. She reaches recessional velocities. That all right. A big screen. Yes, yes. On the TV, it's quite. It's a different thing. It's kind of. I would assume it's kind of like seeing a movie. It's like, all right, yeah. Hey, I watched Avengers on the big screen at the time, TV in my living room. I never actually did. I see it in theaters? No, I don't think I actually saw it in theaters. Uh yeah, different difference. Let's continue. All right. All right. It has to be said that I'm pretty sure I wouldn't have been able to do the things I've done if I'd stayed embedded in the academic system with its increasingly strong toe the line constraints. It's been crucial that I've been in a situation where I'm free to chart my own independent intellectual path. But despite that institutional independence, I'm still routinely leveraging my rather extensive knowledge of existent physics. It's true that the new paradigm I've built has led me to reject some of what have long been believed, but I've never rejected anything lightly. I always make a point of thoroughly understanding what I'm rejecting, and as part of that, it's become my practice to make a detailed study of its history, just to see how people originally came to believe. I'm thinking more and more that that's very important, and even I think Sean Carroll pointed this out at one point, where somebody had asked, like, is it routine within like modern physics curricula to go back and read the original works? It's like, well, unfortunately, no, not really. It's like that's something that I think kind of made Professor Carroll a little bit sad. So, but I sit back and I'm like, oh wait, don't in literature and stuff we like go back to like Plato and read this or. Heck, I remember reading the Communist Manifesto at one point, and it's like, oh, you read through the 49, 50 pages, like, that's an interesting idea. I have no idea how the heck you would be able to get that to work. Uh, Perhaps technology's changed things. I don't know. But Aristotle, Plato, some original classics, the Shakespearean things. I remember reading those and everything. So it's like, why wouldn't we do that now? Perhaps they have to teach so much, so maybe it's a little bit of a balance there. So, all right, let's continue. Yep, history is important. All right. If you just catch something I say on a podcast, you might get the idea that the things I figured out just came to me in the simple way I described them. But it's not like that at all. It's always a complicated process, full of details, systematic work. Central to the way I do things is the tower of technology we've built over the past 4 decades. I use Wolfram language as a medium to clarify my thoughts. And I use it to make those thoughts concrete in computer experiments which routinely produce results I absolutely did not expect. As much as possible, I insist on trying to understand everything from its first principles so I can be confident I know what I'm talking about. Oh, and it helps that I work with very talented people and have a large network that includes many of the world's leading scientists. I can only hope someday to be included within the network of the world's leading scientists. All right, let us continue. So, yes, even if I manage to explain it simply, there's always all sorts of sophistication behind the science I do. So when I get an email that says, I just figured out physics yesterday, or there's this high school physics fact that explains the universe, it profoundly doesn't ring true. Even if someone says, an AI helped me, and there's a veneer of technical academic presentation. Now, we're going to go, oh, we've got an experience. Oh, this is an interesting one. My 1975 experience. In 1975, when I was 15 years old, I just started writing papers about my own physics research when I received a curious letter, now preserved as a yellowish page in my archives. Stephen Wolfram's archives of so many years, so much stuff. See, I'm curious what happens if and when somebody feeds all of Stephen Wolfram's stuff and things and transcripts into potential LLM, and we could have, I don't know, Wolfram bot. Allegedly, those things may or may not already exist. So this was a letter I received. Okay, now it's dear sir slash madam. What does it say? It's been a bit. I am a well-preserved 62-year-old. I graduated with first class honors in maths and physics at Edinburgh in June 1933. So that leaves me open to patronization by the anonymous hierarchy of high energy high priests that have proliferated since then. Okay. Of my life to date, I will say little except that it has been wide ranging and not too demanding in the expenditure of life's resources, so that I am well set for a lengthy campaign of propaganda for my theory, which came to me some 9 years ago after I had reset my uh, final honors exam. Uh, Pardon me while I type. As well as a wee bit of caffeination because America runs on Dunkin', I claim. Price and participation may vary. Okay, came to me 9 years ago after an law exam. With a view to a research career and had been turned down solely on the grounds of an inadequate performance in the quantum mechanics paper. Okay. Every major breakthrough in science has many aspects, but high up on the list of these, if not preeminent, is the aesthetic one. Galileo, Newton, Einstein, the Rock all must have been sustained in their efforts by the beauty and cohesiveness of the grand design. The insidious nature of the present one is such that even through all of the above pioneers were rewarded by a dazzling panorama of hitherto hidden scientific truths. There is a finality and comprehensiveness about it which tempts the hapless explorer to stammer golden things like the inarticulate shepherd who was once given a glimpse of the golden city of Samarkand. Huh? It's okay. I don't even know what is that? Well, let me. No, that's an image. SAM. I am AR. I'm sorry. And oh, it's a city in Uzbekistan. Okay, to be fair, it's okay. That is the place. All right, cool. We got hey, welcome, Charlie. Good to see you. No, we're just reading Professor Wolfram's yesterday blog post. Basically, for those that may have an idea, a theory, or would and may not be in traditional academia or research facilities, how may folks like us contribute? So, Professor Wolfman's sharing his thoughts and his experiences here. So, let's see. Uh, I like the Wolfram. I hopefully they've updated it. When it first came out, it I think it was really good in my opinion because it was just a generic chat GPT, but it was sending things to Wolfram Alpha, and I find it was a lot less agreeable. Like if you're posing something, it's like, listen, this might be interesting, but it's like what you would actually need, you would need a cohesive theoretical framework surrounding this, along with experimental evidence, blah blah. Like you would listing out like the things you would actually need. I, I used it, I think last year, and I don't think it had been updated. And it seemed, I don't know, I felt like it needed to be updated. Hopefully it has been. I know they're working on this new Wolfram Notebook Assistant. I used it at the summer school, and if you know how to ask the right question, it does a pretty good job. For a noob like me, ChatGPT is often easier. And then if I need it refined, I can basically take the rough code ChatGPT does, have it refined within the Wolfram notebook and everything, have it do more specific things. Uh, that was just my experience there. So, uh, well, that's the thing. A lot of time, ChatGPT sometimes might query Wolfram Alpha. Like, I know Kurchai Mungal had a gentleman who he was a mathematics researcher, and I guess during the pandemic, like, yeah, he had a new kiddo, and he was being up late at night, and he was tired. So he's like, I couldn't really do a lot of thinking math, but I could come up with some general questions and have ChatGPT like leverage its knowledge of having like read basically the most of the open internet to kind of draw it to new and interesting places. So it's a lot of times it's like personal opinion and experience here. I remember probably about 4 or so years ago when the Wolfram Physics Project was kind of coming up and running. They were talking about I think Jonathan Gorod. Shout out to Jonathan Gorod. Uh, had popped onto the channel before. He had been working on, I believe, one of his Wolfram, the project, the Wolfram Summer School is like an automated theorem prover. Um, Long story, what I remember, take this with a grain of salt, is that generally, as far as proving theorems go, like the human by itself wasn't the most efficient. The theorem prover by itself wasn't the most efficient. It was literally the human and the theorem prover. It's like, wait, what you're saying is humans and computers working together have the maximal output. Imagine my shock. So I get the vibe that if we have the ability to leverage things, but again, it's trust but verified because we also had a professional attorney that was citing a case that didn't exist, and he was like, "I asked ChatGPT if it was true." So that's why, yes, trust but verify. Even the Wolfram GPT occasionally did make mistakes. That's it tended to be much better, as you said, but yes, trust but verify. That's why it'll give me something, and it's like write this in a way I can understand, so I can just literally plug it in myself. Because if I can do it that way, then I can at least have a calculation. Does it mean I understand the calculation? No, but that's what we're trying to develop here. If we find interesting solutions, what might that be describing to us? And I know at least there are some folks here and other folks I've talked to over the past few years where I'm like, that makes a lot of sense. So doesn't mean it's right, but it helps me intuit better. And I tend to go for if it's simpler and we can explain more with it. And again, if you do have experimental evidence and you can line things up, then yeah, that's going to increase my credence, so to speak. And yeah, this is seeming to be more right. It's kind of like Stephen Wolfram says, like, do I agree with every single thing within the standard modern physics? Yeah, but I'm also not a PhD in physics and everything. So before I say that that's not a thing, and everyone else and all the hundreds and thousands and millions of human beings that came before me are totally wrong. Before I say that, maybe I should have a strong argument. That's yeah, personal thing. Again, I ain't nobody's dad here that I know of. All right, let's see. Yeah, yeah. All right. That sounds about right. I think Rock actually does a fairly decent job. He'll take a good number of significant digits. So but yeah, yeah, no, whatever you have, it's again, if it's putting a bunch of numbers there, remember there are resources like Codata, like Wolfram Alpha. Like if it gives you a calculation, you should be able to replicate it yourself. Now, and maybe even asking Wolfram Alpha how to do it within, or asking ChatGPT how to do it in Wolfram Alpha. Because if you can at least set it up that way, because it can put whatever it wants on the page. You can put in. It's kind of like the photo of Einstein with a random quote with it. It's like, yes, Einstein pictured quote. Rule one of the internet: don't believe everything on the internet. Quoted from Albert Einstein. I like irony. Let's see where we I don't you talking about Levi Chivita or mainly is? I don't know what that is. Oh, that's a dude. Ah, transcendental stuff. All right, let's see what we got here. Mathematics. Polyvan Painleve transcendents are solutions non-linear sort of second order. Oh, it's still the Einstein equations, I think. The only movable singularities are poles, but which are not generally solvable in terms. Ooh, thank you. If it's a pole, I happen to know a geometric object that one could technically project to infinity at a pole or set to a limit. All right, we're bookmarking this. Thank you. So yeah, that's the beauty of the internet. Now I have no idea if that's actually going to be relevant, but hey, now I know that that's a thing, and that is one of the greatest powers of this. Where if it introduces you to a term, I think we should. Listen, I'm just saying that you're trying to explain reality. If if an LLM is returning something and telling you that, well, this is a thing based upon this, it might be worth it to, I don't know, at least read the Wikipedia page on it if there's a thing. And if you want to refine that even more, take it to the next level and do the full on science thing, like actually check the sources, because sometimes you'll find things on the page and it's like, okay, I would like a more formalized thing. It's like, yeah, the link's broken. I can't verify it. I mean, I could cite Wikipedia, but Wikipedia is supposed to be based upon actual, like, legitimate citations. And how is Wikipedia perfect? No. Okay, I'm sorry. I went on a 10-minute rant there. But no, it's good. It's good. It's good to have these discussions. Let's read a little bit. Let me actually let my whistle. Mm, all right. Blah, blah, blah. All right. So we checked out Samarkand. All right. So this individual, and again, for those of you just joining us, this is Stephen Wolfram's most recent blog post about I have a theory too: the challenge and opportunity of avocational science. Um, and this is the thing. I can believe this because Stephen Wolfman's been pretty open. He's like, I get like about approximately 600 emails a day, and it's like he literally spends a couple hours a day just grinding through email because tech CEO and he happens to have a public available email. He's like, I could hide it and stuff, but it's like, why? It's like if somebody wants to send me an idea, they can send me an idea, but it's a massive wall of text, and he doesn't know you, and you're saying, like he said, what was it? When you have something that's like, so I solved physics yesterday, and it's like, maybe that's true. People have been doing that for a while. Now, again, I'm not going to say that's not possible, but I tend to think that, as Stephen Wolfram is expressing here, and what I've learned from a number of the folks that I've talked to, that I believe have very fascinating ideas, and or their ideas may be what I term sufficiently crazy. Um, it might be such an out there idea that people just, oh, that can't be the case. But if it has very great explanatory power, and again, I think I had this discussion with Stephen Wolfram at one point. He didn't really seem to be a huge fan about my term sufficiently crazy. Uh, but then again, at the same time, I term myself, I could hope to be sufficiently crazy. Uh, Sometimes I feel like I'm invoking Arthur C. Clarke. Any sufficiently advanced technology is indistinguishable from magic. I'm simply just rehashing that to any sufficiently crazy idea is indistinguishable from madness. Now, again, I identify as a crazy person on the internet. That's why would I hide that? Very often, again, I need to get my wardrobe updated again so I can have all my yellow shirts and stuff. But sorry, let me. I, I'm a sucker for interactions. Okay. So Charlie's saying about the nonlinear analog of data signs. Oh, the Bessel function. That's like the drum function thing. Like if you have like a drum head and you had like sand on it and you give it a tap, kind of shows like kind of spherical waveforms kind of going out. Yeah, I at least the math world pictures are pretty. Uh, okay. Solution F. No movable singularity. I mean, if it's pull, personally, that sounds highly related to Thad's work. So, no sprite frame sketch appear just because he changed. Da, da, da. All right. Uh, yes. Okay. Yeah. No, that's the thing. If you prompt it, because that was the whole point of what that gentleman that I was referring to that was on Kurt's broadcast at one point. He's like, listen, if the LLM is going to do the right thing, it's like the LLM is smart enough to know here's some math input. I'm going to go query Wolfram Alpha about that because it can do the computation there. Whereas the LLM is basically just kind of like, it's giving you, I view it as, again, your friend that's read the entire internet. Now, if somebody hypothetically did read the entire internet and give you a typical response that you'd find on the internet for that, again, we also need to realize not necessarily everything on the internet is true. So, with that in mind, yeah. Oh no, 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 no. People make math errors all the time and stuff like that. Even mathematicians and stuff. It could be something. There's a lot of times it's like they're they're focusing in like all these different symmetries, all these different waves, and then you just see like a little arithmetic error. It's like, oh. But uh, hey, Jason. Jason's commenting for a while. I thought I had a theory, and then I realized just an ideation, but happened to be working on it for some time, trying to refine it so it became a theory worth sharing with it. Well, see, that's the thing. It's I literally organized like online conference sessions at times to like show stats. I'm like, this is fantastical. This is good. No, no, this was literally user error right here. I literally just made the most. I thought it was something huge. It was just a trivial mistake. Skill error on my part. And that's why, again, most roads I go down, yeah, maybe there could be something there, but it's like, yeah, it's probably not. Probably not. Every once in a while, if you grind long enough, and maybe you talk to some smart folks and learn some things, maybe you can make some progress. But I digress. Let's continue here. Okay. So again, this is a piece that the piece of mail sent to Stephen, a 15-year-old Stephen Wolfram in 1975. So this is a well-preserved 62-year-old that had studied some maths and physics at Edinburgh. All right. So they're talking about these things, saying that maybe they didn't do quite well enough in the quantum mechanics paper, and they're kind of referring to the 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 greats of physics of the past, saying stuff and things, and a little bit of a rant there. All right, so let's begin. All right, this I fear I have frequently done, as previous recipients of my half-boiled accounts will no doubt corroborate. My impatience at the lack of imagination of the academic world, a rare gift reserved for the Newtons and the Einsteins, is tempered by the consciousness of my own technical backslidings, and purged of these, the hypothesis begins to take on a formal degree of uh, urgency and persuasiveness, which must be at very early date break through the barrier of embattled interests and academic priorities that hedge round the more influential scientific publications. It is mainly because of the mountainous demand. Uh, I am almost super viciously shy something words. Uh, from this, after Faraday's dictum on the subject, anyone who entered into uh, scientific research for gain never discovered anything. Um, I respectfully disagree, at least based upon modern stuff that's going on. But being an absolute non-entity in the hierarchy of society, I should be eternally grateful to anyone who might liberate me from the personal necessity of such research, in order that the springs of poetry, music, and art may be set flowing for these well up also from the sheer spirit of curiosity. The analysis section has, have not yet been mass produced, and they will be available in order of request. The next review of the hoop hypothesis, then, or to the time of my release therefrom, I am yours sincerely, that gentleman there. All right. So that was what they laid out there. Hey, welcome, Luciferian. That's where no, we're just talking about Stephen Wolfram's most recent blog post about for those of us that may be out of the standard academic institutions or research facilities. This post is titled, I have a theory too. The challenge and opportunity of avocational science. So long story short, he gets typically a couple emails a day about folks saying, well, we figured it out. Yep, no, we've got this and everything. And sometimes accompanied by AI stuff that was out there. And occasionally he'll take a look and be like, this often seems very disappointing. And that's basically what he's addressing here. It's about how folks that might have ideas can go about refining them and developing them further into things that could actually like submit to a journal or something like that, or get reviewed or go somewhere. Now, and again, I haven't gone through the process, so I don't feel like I have the right to complain about. So I hear a lot of folks say, oh, there's all this nobody will look at anything. It's like, to be fair, I haven't submitted anything. So if I submit things and I feel like it's decently there and maybe it should at least be looked at or something like that. And if it's all rejected and blah, 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 okay, that's fine. Um, some people say, well, there are also smaller journals that actually will take a look at it. Now, I know at least Wolfram, they have the complex systems journal. So pretty sure at least if I submit something there, somebody will at least look at it. Now, they can come back to me and be like, well, this is wrong for all of these reasons. That's fine. That's peer review. That's what it's supposed to be. If there are problems, you want to make something better. It's just, I feel like, in my opinion, sometimes they get an idea, they get really excited about it, and then if you kind of poke or prod their idea or you disagree with them, they take it as a personal offense and they get offended by it because it, again, in my opinion, I think some folks it almost takes on like a religious aspect, which is really interesting or weird because some of these folks they like, I'm not a theist or something like that. I don't believe in any religion, something like that you might hear. And then it's like, but their idea, no, 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 that's sacred. It's, hey, whatever. I'm not the dude. I'm wrong about basically everything. So, uh, that's that's what's going on. Hey, Dan, welcome, my friend. What's happening? Uh, oh, the Aristotle wheel paradox. Not familiar with that. Oh, is that like Zeno's paradox cutting in? And what's Aristotle's paradox? Heard about that? Aristotle paradox. Oh, wheel paradox, known as the Aristotle wheel paradox, is a paradox of problem appearing in the pseudo-Aristotelian Greek work Mechanica. It states as follows: a wheel is depicted by in two-dimensional space as two circles. Okay. Larger outer circle is tangential to the horizontal surface. Okay, so you got all right, tangent there. Okay, there's a larger outer circle. Okay, so it rolls on. Well, the other smaller inner one has the same center and is rigidly affixed to the larger. Uh, okay, okay. So you got this, and then you got this length, and it's fixed there. Okay. Has the same layers, but fixed to larger. The smallest circle could be the bead of a tire. The rim is mounted upon the axle. Assuming the larger circle rolls without slipping or skidding for one full rotation. The distance moved by both sides and the circumference is the same. The distance traveled by the large circle is equal to its circumference, but for the smaller circle, it is greater than its circumference, thereby creating a paradox. I think that's just gear ratios right there. Because that, okay, so it goes, if you're going to go all the way around, I, this is moved by both circle circumference reference points depicted by the blue and red lines. I mean, I'm pretty sure you could just put this in the Wolfram language. Paradox is not limited wheels, other things depicted to say the same behavior, such as a roll of tape. The distance traveled is equal to circumference, but for the smaller, it is great. Yeah, think I think that's just how transmissions work. I don't I don't know. That's what I'm saying. I'm probably just missing it right there, but I don't know because I know for like trains and stuff like that, you'll have different linkages and so I just remember from the fifth grade we did a little thing where you had to turn this thing and then it would the solution. I got something to work, but it was a mess. It was a kludge. We were using the old Legos at the time, and then my tech ed teacher he just showed us. You were just kind of putting those spokes, but then again, those were I don't think those were at different distances. So okay, let's see. All right, let's go back here. Okay. Okay, Miss panel. Okay, we're at the second part of this. All right. So we're just reading through this letter that was sent to Stephen Wolfram in 1975. Its author went on to describe at length his hoop hypothesis that particles like electrons and protons are in effect little loops of wire carrying electric current. Well, that's, I'm sure nobody's. Done anything like that recently? Magnetic couple of electron orbital current on spin magnet. And again, I'm not going to say I have any additional insight to this. I mean, okay, so we got some scribbles there. I think part of what's being considered here and is being shared is, again, I think a lot of this was on a typewriter, but as we can see, it's like I have no idea if these stains were sent initially with the letter or it happened over the years later. But part of this is you can see there are some corrections here, and it's I think part of the claim is if you're going to send something for serious consideration, you might not want to have so many typos and stuff like that. And again, I realize it's if you'd have to redo the whole thing, that would be a pain in the butt and everything. Uh, Again, I don't know how to use a typewriter, so all right. So I do think if one was trying to do this, and again, I understand the general odd set here is I don't know, would a protractor or compass have helped? Piece of string. All right, V is spin magnet. Okay, so you got some V. It looks like momentum. You got your Y, Z. And then statics. This is kind of hard to read. All right, 2 M A naught to the third. That let's just try that. Bohr radius. Let's do two mass of the electron. All right. Well, from alpha two, just do this two because we can. Electron mass squared divided by four. Ah, oh, radius cubed. I spelled that wrong, didn't I? Hold on. Eh, God, Niels Bohr. Ah, I'm so this. I can't say I'm dyslexic. Okay, sorry. I'm looking. I'm like that doesn't seem right. Why? I'm sorry. Professor Tute's name just in the back of my mind. Okay, so we get a calculation here. Don't seem to be any real dimensions, or at least no standard interpretation. So I think at least if that's what that is, I I don't know. So you got some cursive there. Okay, so you got a little calculation. Looks like velocity divided by the speed of light. Some calculations there. Zero. You got arc cosines, arc sines. Uh, some other stuff here. Um, I mean, I'm not smart enough to know what that is. Okay, let's see. So there seems to be things that were obviously wrong. So I point them out. Uh, Eden College was the high school I was at. The new buildings were from the 1840s. Okay, so he's writing from the new buildings at Eden College from the 1840s. So he's writing back. They're Mr. Gordon. So something about some stuff. Mistakes, 18M. Afraid I'm still remain unconvinced about your theory. Okay, hey, even Stephen Wolfram has typos because typewriters were a pain. Uh, Here are a few points about it which I am not really happy with. One, Dirac's theory and its results predict results which are, on the whole, correct. Admittedly, there is no explanation of gravity or of the existence of the strong interaction. You see, when you begin to probe small distances, the form factors should see the internal structure of the proton and electron. So far, no internal structure, E electron, uh, or elementary charge structure has been seen. There's no deviation from the elementary charge plus or minus elastic scattering from unity at least until about 20 GeV squared. All right, so at 20 GeV squared. Oh, okay. Yeah. So that's quadrant. Okay. Number 19 joule squared. Okay. How did he phrase that? Was that okay, so that's energy squared. Let's take the square root. And we take the square root of that. Uh, Giga electron volts. All right, so 4.472 GeV. That's it's like 5 protons, 4.5, something like that. Go there, kilograms. It's about the mass of the alpha particle. 6.64. It's got the first couple digits of Planck's constant. Planck's constant. 6.626. Okay. I'm sorry. I'm a pattern recognition creature. I had to. Um, Continue. Until about 20 GeV squared. Similarly, the meson cloud of the nucleon has been mapped quite carefully. And if the bump, which you say corresponds to the uh, hoop, does indeed have this origin, you should expect to see it in the electron to nucleon. And is a nucleon. I hope your theory goes well, and I'd be interested to hear of your progress. Sincerely, Stephen Wolfram. Okay. Yes. I was a lot younger then with a duly immature signature, and I didn't anticipate that after my first response. I'd receive a deluge of letters full of elaborate handwritten calculations. I responded a couple of times, but didn't seem to be making any headway. So I gave up. But then I started getting letters saying, please send back my calculations. My archive still contains the envelope. I prepared to do that, but I felt I should say something definitive to close things off. And I never got around to that, which I feel a little bad about. Even from sorting these poor independent researchers' calculations that they sent him. I do the same thing. I'm terrible at responding to different things, including this, so I apologize. All right, where are we at? Da, da, da. Much of it make more sense where frame dragging and references come from. Uh, yeah, no, videos are great as far as going through. Bill is inviting folks to poke and prod at his ideas. Cool. Yes. Yeah, I know. I'm being too hard on past 15-year-old Stephen Wolfram. Da, 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 da. I know the sound of the wheel is not moving at all. Motion may be described in many ways. Yeah, well, that's the thing. You hear you hear angular momentum. And the interesting thing is, because when you do something like you the principle of least action, like it's like the elementary unit of action. So Wolfram Alpha, the benefit is it has interpretations. So yes, it's the elementary unit of action, but it can also be interpreted by angular momentum. So it may say elementary viscosity, elementary action, blah blah blah, twisted line three form and A raised to the H. Thermal time, whatever that is. Okay. But it gives you the dimensions. So all these different things should have these dimensions. So we do elementary. So you got mass, area, rate. Mass times a length squared, that's an area. So mass area is divided by time. So that's a rate of something. So it's a mass, area, rate, elementary. Hold on, no, let's go to elementary viscosity. This might have a different thing. Okay, same things. Oh, it's that little like cursive I without an I. I don't even know what the heck that is. What is that? I don't know what symbol this is. Iota. We iota. All right. So, but basically, like angular momentum, got different symbols. It's still expressing the same dimensions. So that's one of the things, at least with me getting to this foray, so to speak. A lot of these ways of expressing things, you could express them in different ways, and people will do different notation. And we all know notation has never confused anyone. except for me all the time. That's the benefit of if you have basic dimensionality. Apparently, since Wolfram Alpha keeps track of this, uh, I didn't know how much of a superpower that was allegedly, because when I went to the Mystify Psi cosmology conference in Portugal, we were talking about like, oh, dimensional stuff and things and doing this stuff, and it's like, all right, that's cool. But dimensional analysis came up, and I was like, no, Wolfram Alpha basically gives you guardrails because you can do whatever calculation, get some crazy cool number, maybe find the golden ratio or something somewhere. Now, maybe that really does mean something. If there aren't aligned up dimensions, maybe you're like, maybe it is something, maybe it's telling us something deeper that we haven't discovered. But at least if you're gonna be doing calculations, if it doesn't give you back an interpretation, whatever. That was the whole point of like my Wolfram physics project, or Wolfram summer school project, where it's like, all right, I'm trying to find the flux of the causal graph or something like that. How might this take place? Xerxes gave me some advice. I just literally divided by the one of energy, the Planck energy, and all of a sudden it gave me the dimension of flux that was within one magnitude of what they derived via a completely different method for the physics project. So I'm like, I took this literally. So again, I have no idea if that's accurate. I have no idea if that even still makes sense. I still have to either divide out dimensions or literally say this is literally the maximum flux. And at that point, I think one of the LLMs was like, I think it was ChatGPT was like, oh, you might be able to think of this as voxels. I'm like, oh my God, are we going back to cellular automata from the hypergraphs? Now, again, they're models, a model you can represent in different ways. If you have the ability to look at a model from multiple perspectives, which is one of the reasons why I'm like, listen, do I understand the full physics project? Never even know. But it's like conceptually, if we're mapping things and we have the ability to look at it from different perspectives that we didn't have before, that is encouraging that maybe we notice something we didn't see before. So again, that must be an opinion. Okay. Okay. Where? Right, let's go back. Okay, so we're finishing up. Blah blah blah. Okay, so didn't quite send back the original material. All right. But looking at the letter I received half a century ago, it's striking how similar it is to many of the emails I get today. Though today the writing is usually not so eloquent. Somehow there's an enthusiasm for solving physics, using everyday thinking and everyday experience that's persisted all the time, all that time, and about which people who haven't been deeply exposed to 20th century physics develop surprisingly great conviction. Somebody that worked in sales, here's the thing. It's if you can say something with confidence and conviction, and you're using that body language and stuff, like some people will just buy from you. It's that kind of goes into the whole, and I had not all, hashtag not all, but it statistically increases your chance because it's like, well, at least that person's confident, so they sound like they know what they're doing there. Now, that goes into the adage of y- you're selling something at a level where you could sell a ketchup popsicle stick to a woman wearing white gloves. The moral of that adage is if a woman's wearing white gloves, she probably doesn't want to get stained with a ketchup popsicle stick, which is going to melt all over her gloves and make them a mess. There are ways you can coach people into doing things. And now, especially if somebody has a bias, maybe they had a bad experience with a professor or something like that, they kind of got burned. Somebody was rude to them because it's not like somebody being rude or dismissive would make people double down in their convictions for anything. But yes. Let's see. Did hot pockets exist in 1975? Well, if you put something hot in your pocket, by definition, there would be. I don't think hot pockets, as the brand is, I don't think it existed then. Da, da, da. Now, to be fair, I am also biased. It's the golden ratio pops up in very interesting places, along with the imaginary golden ratio, or um, the cubed root of -1. Uh, so and again, very biased, very biased. Uh, oh, that too. Yeah, yeah, no, no, Charlie, that's the thing. It's like if you don't know what do most people default to? When presented with things that people are unfamiliar with, because my general thought is people, I'll hear people go around and say, oh, people are dumb or something like that. I'm like, yeah, it's not really my experience. I think people are smart. They know what they know, often well, but when they're confronted with something that they're unfamiliar with, they often just default to what the people that they know and trust are saying. Now, perhaps those people have biases, perhaps they have their own agendas or stuff like that, because hey, don't we all? Uh, it's one of those things. That just makes sense. If someone's saying something with conviction, it's just easier to nod along rather than get into an argument or fight. And a lot of people don't like conflict. So, yeah, did that. No, I mean, that's the problem you can have sometimes if you go in so many different directions. And I find myself going in different directions, and it's like, how far off the farm am I getting, so to speak? That can be, yeah, that can be a concern. But yeah, no, if you can explore things to the maximum extent, by all means. All right. So let's see. What should people actually do? Let's say you're passionately interested in doing science, but you haven't had a chance to spend years learning the technical details of something like existing physics. What can you do? Maybe you have some particular idea, perhaps based on something you'd heard about or read about. The idea is an idea with as much technical depth as physics, realistically going to be an immense challenge to develop the idea in a useful way. And most likely to really do so, you'd have to learn a whole tower of technical details, the equivalent of several years of schooling. But nowadays, you might think, can't AI help? Well, if you tell your idea to a high-end LLM, it'll probably be able to produce something about it that looks and feels like a scientific paper. But unfortunately, with almost absolute certainty, the paper will ultimately be complete nonsense. At a sentence by sentence or even paragraph by paragraph level, it may seem okay. But assuming your idea hasn't already been worked out somewhere on the internet for the AI to read, then regardless of how much reasoning the AI claims it's doing, it's almost astronomically unlikely that it'll produce anything that hangs together. But while AI on its own isn't realistically going to help, computers and computation potentially can. Because if you can get your idea beyond pure words to something more formal and precise, then it's potentially a different story. Because then you may be able to do the kind of thing I've routinely done for so long and use the power of computation to do the heavy lifting, to explore your ideas. And yes, it's an ideal use case for the Wolfram language, because the Wolfram language not only lets you describe things to a computer, it also helps you formulate your ideas in clear computational form. And these days, there's even a good chance you'll be able to use our AI notebook assistant to help get started. But the thing to emphasize is that if this is going to work, you'll at some point have to actually understand with clarity the computational language code to describe your idea. It's a high bar to reach if you start with just with words, but if you reach it or get someone to help you reach it, you'll be off and running, able to do real science, relying on a computer and Wolfram language, just like so many of the world's leading scientists do. If I'm realistic, though, only a tiny fraction of the avocational science emails I receive seem even close to being amenable to this kind of formalization. And most of the time, I just feel they picked the wrong battle. They're trying to solve physics and beat Einstein. But as I've explained, you have to have a lot of technical knowledge to even credibly get to the starting gate in such an effort. So is that the end of the story? Are the front lines of science just closed to anyone who isn't in the priesthood of highly trained scientists. Well, you've got to expect to do careful, systematic work. But the good news is that these days, there's a certain opportunity for great foundational contributions to be made that don't depend on all the technical details of, say, existing physics. Yes, in these years, there's a way for someone without all the technical training to do foundational science that's significant and thoroughly original, and potentially has all sorts of philosophical as well as scientific significance. It won't be something that swoops in and solves physics, but it can be a building block that might even apply to physics, and that represents a lasting intellectual contribution. As it happens, it's been my work for over the past 45 years or so that perhaps most clearly highlighted what's possible. But ultimately, what's opened up the opportunity is the great intellectual development of our time, the computational paradigm. Unaided, there would be no alternative but to toil through all those technical details to reach the frontiers of science. But what we are learning is that thinking in fundamentally computational terms provides something transformative, a way to see deeply into the foundations of science, and for those who choose to use it, a way to chart a direct path to the frontiers. In the past, it wouldn't have been so clear, but particularly now with our physics project and everything that's followed from it, I think we can be confident that there are meaningful computational foundations to be found for theoretical science, underneath, for example, fields like physics and mathematics. And it's these foundations that, with the help of computation, give us access to a new frontier of science. It's all about exploring the computational universe, the universe of computational possibilities. The computational universe is infinite, and there's a place in it for everyone, a place that's never been visited before, where there's new science to be found that, once found, will stand forever. These days, I have a name for this type of science. I call it rheology, the study of systems with usually simple computational rules. In some ways, one can view rheology as the ultimate theoretical science, the science from which other sciences must flow. I myself have been doing rheology for 45 years now and spent the heart of most of the discoveries I've made over all those years. But in all that I've done, I haven't even begun to scratch the surface of what is there to discover in rheology. Pick even perhaps the single best explored part of rheology, the study of cellular automata. Going out into the computational universe, one can instantly find examples full of all sorts of richness that one can be pretty sure nobody has ever seen before. Pretty. Each one of these is like a world unto itself, a system with all sorts of detailed behavior that can be studied. It needs scientific creativity to figure out what to look at. It needs a certain clarity of thinking to keep track of what one might find. But with the Wolfram language as a tool, there's no limit to the explorations one can do. Create a computational essay describing them, and you'll have made a clear contribution to science. Don't expect that the details of what you'll see will immediately relate to phenomena, say, in physics. Even if you're using hypergraphs, multi-way systems, etc., you're inevitably operating far below even what physics over the past century has explored. But more broadly and deeply, but the more broadly and deeply you investigate, the more you'll have a chance to find core phenomena in rheology that'll flow through to a lot of other places, including potentially physics. By doing computer experiments, you'll develop a new kind of intuition. I don't think I've ever seen someone who isn't at first surprised by what they see out in the computational universe once they carefully look at it. But with that intuition, you'll get a sense of what you might explore in the computational universe. And you'll get a real 21st century way to think about science, something that in the end might lead you not only to specific scientific conclusions, but also much deeper and more general conceptual or philosophical conclusions. Everyday experience of the world gives one a certain intuition, whose implications have been well worked through over the millennia. But experience of the computational universe is something new, and something from which, if one successfully internalizes it, one can derive fundamentally new thoughts about the way things work. So, what does this mean for the stream of emails I receive? Just sometimes there's already, just sometimes there's already a piece of ruleology where there's a clear computational phenomena that mail describes. And when I get such mail, I think to myself, yes, there's something that'll be surviving. Uh, there's something that'll be a surviving contribution to science. But far often, the thrust of the emails instead, here's a theory I came up with by making an argument largely with words. Centuries ago, that may have been par for the course. But now, like that, But now nothing like that has a serious chance of reaching the frontiers of something like physics. And it could be the only way to reach those frontiers would be to learn the whole tower of existing physics. But ruleology provides a unique shortcut. Ruleology is a field so vast, so comparatively new, that in a sense, we're inevitably all some level beginners in it. I spent years building tools for it that through the Wolfram language are now available to everyone. So now we're all So now we're all able to explore it together. When one makes a discovery in ruleology, there's a certain abstract permanence to it. That rule you found will always do that thing. It's something that, in a sense, helps to elevate us beyond our mere human existence. We've come up upon something that's forever, that will always be that way. And it's hard not to feel a sense of awe in being able to discover a thing like that, and to know that no human in history has ever seen it before. I'd like to think that this kind of thing is the essence of what people seek when they try to come up with their theories of physics. But the difference is that a solid piece of ruleology, likely complete with striking and unexpected images, represents a real achievement in science that one can validly be proud of, and they can enter the long-term canon of science. So please, send ruleology, not yet more vague theories of physics. Let's let's take all that energy and direct it to that foundational mission of 21st century science, the systematic exploration of the computational universe. How do I get started? The best way to start studying ruleology is to start doing that. Check out some of the things I've written about ruleology. Click any picture in any piece, and you'll get a Wolfram language to reproduce that picture. Start by finding a picture you think looks interesting. Try modifying its code, and try to understand what's going on. Planning to put in place a systematic educational program for ruleology, as well as setting up a new modern venue for publishing ruleological investigations. And we're planning to provide infrastructure to help develop a systematic worldwide ruleological community. Add yourself here to learn about developments with doing ruleology and join the discussion. So, okay, let's get ooh. Got stuff from the past 20 something years on ruleology. Okay, when did he start calling it ruleology? I think a couple of years ago. Uh, Forgotten code. Cool. All right. Ooh. I'm sorry. I'm sorry. I wanted to go through and actually finish that. Where are we? Let's see. Fun. Why is the sky blue? Something, something Raleigh scattering. I thought it was because it absorbs basically all the wavelength that to observers like us would appear not blue, so it ends up uh, sending through blue light. I don't know. I'd say, I mean, I heard that long ago. It was explained to me as well. It's actually every color but blue, so blue is the one that comes off. Is that a great explanation? No, but something particle physics, optical receptors. Sounds right. Again, I'm not an optometrist nor professional physicist. Uh, outrage. Well, that's the thing. It's people get excited, and you go out there, and people are very busy with stuff. One of the things that I usually notice is I'll go to different places, and once you have, if you see a live stream, and then maybe there's a somewhat famous scientist or professor, somebody notable, or even there are other folks out there. Very often, you'll have folks going around, and immediately a topic comes up, and I, this is I'm doing this for emphasis, but a lot of times I feel like people just vomit out their same elevator pitch every time. Now, if people were asked about it, about what they think, that's fine. It's just a topic will come up, and then people just lay out everything there. And I don't want to say that's like screaming into the ether. Maybe it means that I say this as somebody that did this all the time. You're screaming out there into the ether. Nobody seems to respond. Um, but people are very busy. And often, if let's just say there's a scientist somewhere, you recognize them, you just walk up and you just start talking to this person unprompted. It's like, is that what you would really do? You wouldn't introduce yourself first? You wouldn't say, "Hey, how you doing? No, I liked your talk." It's just the standard social dynamic of what I found is even if just for purely selfish reasons, um, I feel people are more open to listening to other people's ideas if you ask them about their ideas or express interest, because then that's kind of like the give some get some thing, where a lot of times whether it's on social media or something like there, uh, people I'll see people pop into chats, threads, and stuff like that, and just say, "Oh no, here's the thing, here's how it must be," blah 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 blah. See it all the time. See in different Discord chat, and people again, like Stephen Wolfram was saying, very often they're very confident, and you know, hey, maybe it's right, maybe it is right, maybe I just can't see it. But sometimes I'll go through different things. People are like, oh, well, here's some. Oh, could you send me this stuff? I look at this, and it's like, I mean, you did kind of say this equals the fine structure constant, but you get less digits than Weiler's constant, or maybe even just less than your standard 1 over 137 thing. So and that's like, oh, well, here's the thing. If you can replicate the, like, if you could replicate the anomalous magnetic moment of like the electron to 14 significant digits, that is not an easy thing to do. And I think even Thad has trouble with that. I said I would do it at some point, but I got lazy and didn't find something satisfactory. It's like, that last digit is hard. I could find some decent answers for maybe like 12 digits. But well, if we got that to 14, we got pretty tight constraints. That is not an easy thing to do. So, one of the things I found is also just honestly from even the Wolfram Summer School, you talk to some of the folks there. It's like, oh, yeah, part of this is almost kind of like a recruiting ground. It's like there might be people out there that have some interesting ideas and stuff, but if you actually show up, because you can say anything you want on the internet. It's like, okay, but hey, I've run into and hung out with a bunch of folks that I run into on the internet. Bill, Bill and Kathy put me up and fed me pizza and everything, and we were able to have more deep discussions and stuff. I know Rick has come out to the monastery. I know Mike, one of the guys from the cosmology conference, had come out to the monastery. Um, that's the thing. It's it at least shows that listen, on the internet, for better or worse, you never know who's out there. It's like maybe it's a total crazy person that they show up and they're kind of creepy. That has happened. Uh, maybe it's somebody that won the breakthrough prize. You never know who's watching or something there. It's so again, that works for better or worse. It's just I feel very often it's why I think they say science is a social activity because hypothetically, let's say you've solved for life, the universe, and everything. That might be the case. If you are never able to successfully communicate it to anybody, fortunately, the idea kind of dies with you. Um, that's why, at least even if you don't think modern you don't agree with all the different things there. It's like as Stephen Wolfram said, it's like, are you gonna quote unquote throw the baby out with the bathwater, so to speak? It's like, yeah, it's we know the standard model isn't complete, doesn't even go do train ups, whatever the heck those things might be. Weird. But if you're just gonna throw it away and be like, well, triangle, 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 or something, I'd say I feel in different disciplines. You'll see these cool geometric shapes. It's like, all right, cool, maybe that is. How would we fit these together? Well, we have these things, you'll have these circles here, this will go over here. It's like, and again, I see a lot of these words and you'll see some math. It's like, can you use it in a computational lesson? Because a lot of these things that I've seen from folks, it's like you you could actually go in and probably use the Wolfram AI assistant and just tell it these things, and it could actually draw that shape and say fit together X number of these shapes. Because now once you have an object, now you can do actual computation on. And again, like you need to learn how to do it. That's why again, like my personal experience with the Wolfram Notebook Assistant, I was able to at least get the generic outline of code via Chat GPT just because it has more instances. If I knew how to ask better questions within the Wolfram language, I'm pretty sure the assistant would be there. Like if it's just like, just draw me a tetra, make a 3D tetrahedron. Yeah, I can do that. Yeah, I can say those words. It's pretty easy. Now, if it's like, take two tetrahedra, lop off the edges, and I'll glue them together in this particular way, it's going to be able to do that. Maybe. I haven't asked in that exact terms, but if I'm trying to create the hyperbolic figure eight knots complement from two truncated tetrahedra, that might be a wee bit more difficult than just making a tetrahedron. So, uh, yeah, no, it's if you can learn the tools and stuff, and one of the big things he said is you need to spend time to learn these things, to research it. It's like we literally have like exponentially the Library of Alexandria at our fingertips. I mean, can anybody watching now or temporarily in the future is literally remote viewing. You're remote viewing a dude in the greater Boston area on the East Coast. Now, I mean, that seems like magic going back X number of years, but at this point, it's like, hey, we are where we are. So sorry about a rant. Uh, let's see. Charlie's commenting. I had no idea what the Boltzmann constant was, and asked the AI, and it told me that all I wanted. And it told me that that's all I wanted it to do, and then explained to me, and that was good AI. I'm smart because the AI of it. The AI did not invent the Boltzmann constant, but oh no 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 no. Some ideas like if it's like he said it like if the LLM if it's read something. Uh, so, but basically, uh, so yeah. So basically, if it's already read it on the internet. So, but assuming your idea, oh, sorry, not sure. So, but assuming your idea hasn't already been worked out somewhere on the internet for the AI to read, yeah. Well, that's the thing. It's like it can read like Boltzmann's constant from Wikipedia, and a lot of times, just as a quick analysis, especially if it's an obscure topic, yeah, you can ask about it right there. I mean, very often, yeah, I mean, you could do a Google search if there's something for Wikipedia there. You can at least find a landing point. Sometimes, maybe it has read a paper where something more obscure is, and it can help do that. Now, sometimes it's okay. So there was a couple of things on Codata where like HTTP and stuff like that. Ultimately, it was relating like the moments some relationship between like deuterium and tritium, essentially individual particles, so to speak, whatever the heck those may or may not be. Uh, we thought it was Hertz Tesla. It was like HT and stuff like that. We went through, we did that exercise, we solved for it. That wasn't what I was talking about at all. We were just using Thad's method to try to like just grind out a potential close one solution. We found an answer to a thing that didn't exist. So but long story short is we use that to eventually I think it took a couple of days, few like a year or so ago, for that to end up figuring out like what it actually meant. It's something that apparently only chemists really use the term. Uh, that's the thing. You have all this different notation for these same dimensional quantities, or at least dimensions of measure, so to speak. They might be different magnitudes, different scales, but it's essentially relating phenomena that we've been able to aggregate and categorize, so to speak. Let's see, where are we? Yeah, no, no, I know. I mean, tools make a huge difference. It's see, that's I think they're trying to do that with Galileo or Isaac Newton, something like that, where it's like they're trying to create like a virtual so you could kind of interact with them or maybe learn from them. Now I have no idea if one of the reasons why Stephen Wolfram's putting out all this stuff on the internet so people could potentially make the Stephen Wolfram bot, even if Stephen Wolfram isn't on this mortal coil, God forbid, so to speak. Uh, yeah, yeah. Now at this point, you basically have something that has like, I don't know, millions and millions of words of your data set, your mannerisms, and once it's able to analyze video, it's like, I don't know, could it create a virtual Stephen Wolfram that is kind of close to the original? Is it going to be the original? No, why? I don't know, but hey, maybe he'll be getting he'll Stephen Wolfram or Wolfram Bot or whatever will be giving lectures in the next 100 years or so. Uh, oh, no worries, no worries. I understand they got that stuff, so I'm just finishing up right now. So, but all right. So as international events are going on, we've finished this, and again, anybody that wants to go check that out, feel free. The link is in the doobly doo below. Throw this here. If anyone wants to go check out Stephen Wolfram's most recent blog post. And yeah, so long story short for the summary is basically if you have an idea, Stephen Wolfram is recommending framing it in rheology, basically saying that, and again, I'm sure he's biased on this. He's saying that you have a tool such as the Wolfram language where you can inquire and ask different things. And and again, this is my personal bias. The computational database and repository of Wolfram Alpha is an absolute godsend because it you just type in words in natural language, it gives you these things. If the LLM is has the ability to sync with it, yeah, you can ask some questions. I would recommend, as Professor Wolfram is, try to understand the stuff you best you can and stuff. And there is a lot of educational content out there. And again, I'm not a mathematician or anything. It's I had to learn or at least be exposed to a good deal of math to try to start to get more comfortable. Am I still do I understand math? No. I'm basically mostly doing algebra and stuff, but that was something that confused me back in the day. Now I can find whoever presents something in at least maybe the laid out there. Now, even if you disagree with what's there, if it's the general conventional thing, maybe you kind of learn the things because one of the things that Stephen Wolfram and Professor Dick Feynman used to do is they'd have a game. It was a contest to see who could find the fatal flaw in somebody's argument first. Now, if you're going to learn that stuff, maybe there is a fatal flaw there. Like, maybe it's not a fatal flaw, but it's something weird. I remember when Professor Barondus was, when he was up on at the Wolfram Summer School, he wrote the foundations of quantum theory on the board. I think it was the von Neumann axioms or what. And now he's writing it out, and again, maybe he's paraphrasing something, but it's like take n dimensions from like zero to like infinity or something like. And I'm reading through this, and my first reaction is that's crazy. Now I understand if you're taking a mathematical view, it's like we actually know how many dimensions there. Well, it seems to be three. There seems to be a thing like time here that we've kind of categorized. Maybe they're all a whole bunch of curled up dimensions. Maybe there are infinite amounts of one. But it was a very broad axiomatic framework to try to figure out what's going on at the time. It's like, Do you have a better idea? Now, from what I can see, is it looks like Professor Barron does to summarize what I heard Stephen Wolfram say was like right now quantum mechanics and how we it's generally done is we experience weird phenomena that we can't account for because basically we're using Markovian methods. The general thought is if you take a snapshot here and we have all the factors, we should be able to predict exactly what's going on. The problem is we run into very weird phenomena. What I heard Stephen Wolfram say about Professor Barondus is uh, individual stochastic, uh, was it individual stochastic processes, was that if you're using non-Markovian, basically, if you want to predict with maximal accuracy, like if you want to know perfectly what was going to happen, you need to know everything that happened before that. So basically, you would need to know everything up until basically, if there was a moment of creation, so to speak, or start program. So basically, you would need to know everything in the past to be able to figure out precisely what's going on. The benefit, apparently, all those weird phenomena go away. Uh, the problem, you have to know everything that happened beforehand. So the way I heard Stephen Wolfram phrase it was, you're basically front loading the problem. So right now, quantum mechanics is we take a snapshot, we can't account for this, so there's a bunch of weird phenomena. Okay. We're dealing with that weird phenomenon the best we can. You do take a non-Markovian individual stochastic process approach. We're front loading the problem. We had perfect information. We could predict things and not have these weird phenomena. Personally, I think the past matters. Personal opinion. I could be wrong. Maybe it's Markovian all the way down, but that's all I got for right now. So, hey, thank you all for watching. Peace out, everybody. Take care of yourselves. It's a wacky and wild world out there, and there's something for better tomorrow. Peace out, everybody.